Throughout 2023 and now into 2024, public safety on the TTC, Toronto's transit system of streetcars, buses, and the subway, has been put under the spotlight. Throughout 2023, there were reports of stabbings, violent assaults, and numerous other criminal acts that took place. And those incidents are in large part why latest polling on transit safety in Toronto showed that 40% of riders felt that the system was either pretty unsafe or very unsafe. And while it's clear that there is a problem, there are a lot of questions about the solutions. Joining us now to discuss safety on the TTC is Fin DePencier, journalist with Canadian Affairs. Fin, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, David.
What's being done on the part of the TTC to improve safety?
Well, there's been a lot of different investments made over the last few years, but the thing I was just recently writing about was some new investments made as part of the 2024 budget. So they're investing another $28.2 million into the well-being, security, and safety program, and that money goes to all sorts of different things. So they're going to be investing in 50 new special constables, which are sort of like police officers, but have somewhat reduced powers. They're investing in about 40 different social workers. Some of them are from the what's called Streets to Homes program, something called the multidisciplinary outreach team. They're also paying for 6 new bus drivers to for the shelter bus program. So I don't think a lot of people know about this, but the TTC is paying to move homeless people who are sleeping on the platforms to shelters around the city. And with the Toronto shelter capacity at its brim, a lot of these people just end up kind of loitering on the buses overnight. So
Mhm.
they're investing in a whole bunch of different. There's many different approaches,
Yeah.
and people have different opinions about which work.
And for the various instances that are problematic, obviously there's a difference between someone who's in need of mental health intervention and someone who is acting violently towards others. How does the TTC distinguish between those two situations and what is done in each of them?
So what I've learned is that violence in the TTC is actually very rare. But nonetheless, most people who ride the TTC to work every day have no doubt encountered somebody who's causing a disturbance, and
Mhm.
usually a homeless person or somebody in a mental health crisis, and there's often that latent um, possibility of danger, but it's actually quite rare that these people lash out. And so generally speaking, that's a situation where the mental health support workers are dispatched to try to calm somebody down, move them to a shelter, move them off the train, or simply just stand by in case they do something violent,
Mhm.
so that they can call the police
Uh,
uh, and other emergency
Yeah,
officials.
that's an important point. Is when something goes from, let's say, a mental health emergency to becoming a potential for violence. Rather than having to phone the police in that instance, would an increase in uniformed police presence on the transit system help deter or at least properly address when those instances are happening?
Well, I think it certainly would. And for the first 3 months of 2023, the TTC was paying for 80 uniformed police officers to do daily patrols. But then the funding ran out, and there was a motion in city council to extend it, but it was voted down. And I spoke with one city councilor who voted against that motion, and she said that we need the police in other parts of the city. So in her ward, she said that there's been record amounts of home break-ins and auto thefts, and we shouldn't be forcing the police to do a job that somebody else can do. And what I've heard from everybody in my reporting is that just having a uniformed officer there, whether it's a police officer or a special constable or a fare inspector, deters crime and makes everyone feel more safe. And the TTC is really working on improving the response time between a reported incident and the police arriving. So I'm sure it would help, but the police are they're in dire need all over the city, and most people seem to think that other people can do that job.
Yeah, it may be a bigger question for law enforcement resources overall as a whole, in terms of whether it be underfunding or staffing. Finn, thank you very much for joining us on Forum Daily today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure, David.